In the streaming age, there's never been a better time to be a horror fan. With an absolute glut of choice at our fingertips, it can sometimes be difficult to sort the good from the very, very bad. And this becomes especially troublesome when platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime seem to flood their services with subpar offerings in the name of quantity over quality. So that's why I'm here today, to help you sift through all the muck and get the absolute gems out into your eyeballs. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 great performances in recent horror movies. Number 10. Megan Fox, Till Death. Hollywood seems to have largely forgotten about Megan Fox. Once a blockbuster mainstay, her output has now begun to take the form of movies that mirror her own relative obscurity. Part murder mystery, part home invasion thriller, Till Death tells the story of a young woman handcuffed to her dead husband whilst two killers try to finish her off as part of a tense and brutal revenge plot. The film dropped on Netflix in summer of 2021, and even though it flew under the radar, it was received well critically. One of the film's main talking points was Fox herself, who was described as being an engaging presence and a joy to watch. This won't be surprising to anyone who's watched Jennifer's Body, a film that was poorly received at the time but has since gone on to become a cult feminist hit. Here, Fox also flexed her considerable horror movie muscles, so her excellent performance in Till Death is pretty much on brand. Here's hoping that she continues to pop up in well-made scary movies. Number 9. Kim Yoo-jung, The Eighth Night. A lavish Korean horror mood piece, The Eighth Night tells a tale of two halves, a monk and a detective both trying to stop an ancient demon from wreaking havoc with those it possesses. However, the plot revolves around possession as part of a larger ritual for the demon to return to full power, culminating in the taking of a virgin. Covering Buddhist themes such as fate, karma, and eternity, there's even a nifty 8-day countdown that adds tension to the proceedings. The film received mainly mixed reviews from critics who praised its atmosphere but disliked the largely derivative plot. But one element of the flick that was almost universally praised was the lead herself, played by a restrained but compelling Kim Yoo-jung. Here, Yoo-jung puts most of her performance into her eyes and facial expression, adding a layer of muscular silence to every scene that she's in. What could have been a cliched sacrificial lamb of a character is instead elevated to one of great sympathy and mystery, showing us that you don't always need words to convey complex emotions. Number 8. KIANA MADEIRA, Fear Street Trilogy. Netflix's experimental horror trilogy, released back-to-back over 3 weeks, performed admirably well both critically and commercially for the platform. Based on Goosebumps author R.L. Stine's book series, the trilogy follows an unlucky group of teenagers attempting to break a witch's curse in the town of Shadyside over the course of 300 years, with plenty of brutal killings along the way. The absolute standout of the show, and one of the ensemble to appear in all 3 installments, was KIANA MADEIRA. Her central performance anchors all 3 flicks to a more cohesive overarching story. She spoke out about having to brush off the tropes of a comic relief character from her previous efforts in Trinkets to bring a more intense and focused character like Dina to life. Dina as a character is somebody willing to go to the ends of the earth for her loved ones, and the actress made this facet of her character utterly believable. Praise has also been rightly given to how Fear Street sensitively portrays the queer love story at the heart of the plot, which makes it pretty much essential viewing. Number 7. Jasmine Savoy Brown, The Sound of Violence. An absolute bone-crunching debut from director Alex Noyer, this film is not for the squeamish. Arriving like a cross between the comparatively tame Sound of Metal and one of the more visceral Saw movies, this plot follows troubled genius Alexis, who, after recovering from deafness during the brutal murder of her family, gains synesthesia and embarks on a savage odyssey of torture, murder, and sound design. If that sounds like a strange mix, well, that's because it is. One particularly horrifying scene left us unable to look at an MPC drum machine in the same way ever again. In spite of this, Jasmine Savoy Brown somehow brings the whole blood-soaked horror show together. Arrogant but vulnerable, passionate but also sensitive, Alexis is probably one of the most sympathetic serial killers recently committed to celluloid. This is no mean feat given the blood-curdling nature of her escapades. I mean, seriously, who thinks to turn their best friend into a walking speaker? But Savoy Brown has us watching the villain's journey with equal amounts of disgust and awe. Number 6. Kai's SETTI, Blood Red Sky. Blood Red Sky was a criminally overlooked German horror/thriller that absolutely deserved more attention. A mother and her young son board a nighttime flight to go start a new life together, but the plane is then taken over by a brutally efficient set of hijackers looking for ransom. But the twist? The mother is a deadly and extremely protective vampire who must now choose between staying human for her son or unleashing the beast to save him and her fellow passengers. This underrated gem of a movie is chock full of great performances, but it's SETTI's character who is the standout. Playing the film's absolute moral center, he brings a dogged determination and endless sensitivity to what could have easily been an expendable sidekick to Nadia's vampire. He's also an excellent foil to the ruthless hijackers and the other more selfish passengers, always looking to help others before himself. His kind-heartedness is brought to life convincingly by SETTI's nuanced and low-key portrayal, and it makes this film definitely worth a look. Number 5. Pierce Brosnan, False Positive. A middling but ambitious genre throwback, False Positive attempts to revive the long-dead genre of pregnancy horror first made famous by the likes of 1968's Rosemary's Baby. Here, a young couple, Lucy and Adrian, struggle to conceive children on their own, so turn to pioneering fertility physician Dr. John Hindle, played here by Pierce Brosnan. An uncomfortable and oftentimes overly callous journey of pregnancy, paranoia, and gaslighting ensues. Brosnan himself has had something of a low-key revival of late, playing villainous roles in films like The Foreigner and Urge. His pedigree for more unsavory performances has reached a pinnacle here though, because here he imbues Hindle with subtle threat, convincingly hidden behind a veneer of medical professionalism, to the point where we the audience even begin to doubt ourselves about his intentions. The quiet menace that he brings to this role stands head and shoulders above the rest of the movie. That being said, if you're a true genre hound, you should definitely give this flick a go. Word of warning though, maybe have a Pixar film queued up to cleanse the palate after watching the ending of this one. Number 4. ALGARD, Censor. A critical sensation from 2021, Censor is one part psychological horror and one part character study, following British film board censor Enid as she attempts to hold back the tide of smut and violence from the public during the 1980s video nasties era. She stumbles across a violent movie that may hold the answers to traumatic events of her past and her missing sister. To say this film is worth a watch would be a massive understatement. Censor will grip you tight from the opening scene to its bonkers final act, but it's ALGARD herself who anchors this film with a mesmeric central performance. A lonely but determined woman attempting to rally against the moral panic of her day and stay sane in the sleazy, misogynistic business that she finds herself in, ALGARD conveys so much through silence and sideways glances that you don't even notice how much of this film is actually wordless. This film simply would be nothing without her, and it is well worth a look. Number 3. YAHYA ABDUL-MATEEN II, CANDYMAN. 2021's sequel to the original 1992 gothic horror classic saw Jordan Peele and director Nia DaCosta resurrect one of cinema's greatest supernatural slashers. Whilst some critics were left divided by this modern take on the classic villain, here seeing struggling artist Anthony becoming embroiled in the supernatural history of the character and the film's ghoulish namesake, longtime fans were awed at this new take on the story. Riffing on the established neo-gothic mythos of the original, the directorial team introduced more pronounced themes of marginalization, gentrification, art world snobbery, and police brutality, and although a bit shaky, it largely sticks the landing. And no one had bigger shoes to fill than YAHYA ABDUL-MATEEN II. Stepping into a role made immortal by the legendary Tony Todd, Mateen rose to the occasion and then some, serving a delirious performance of a man at once obsessed with his subject and terrified at his own gruesome transformation. The actor brought class and intensity in equal measure for a true 1-2 punch of a performance that was completely worthy of Todd's original. He really does give a new meaning to the phrase tortured artist. Number 2. MARINA MAZEPA, Malignant. Where to begin with Malignant? James Wan's bonkers masterpiece has left many a jaw lying on sticky cinema floors the world over, and for good reason. Following abused spouse Madison as she bears psychic witness to a string of horrific murders committed by her childhood imaginary friend, the film keeps its cards close to its chest for most of the film. Our brief encounters with the killer Gabriel for much of the runtime shows us a vaguely humanoid killer moving in some distinctly inhuman ways. That is, until the earth-shattering reveal that Gabriel is Madison's parasite parasitic conjoined twin who has been taking over her body from the back of her head to commit said crimes. The scenes in which this is revealed sparks a bloody massacre in the middle of a police station. Gabriel/Madison's contortions are now in full disgusting view for the audience. Honestly, there hasn't been fight choreography this good since The Raid. No, really, it does stack up. But none of this would have been possible without Gabriel's body double actor, MARINA, who gives one of the most blisteringly physical performances ever put to film. Herself a dancer, who before this was only really known for her appearances on America's Got Talent, MAZEPA brought to life a horror villain for the ages, making the insane concept of Gabriel as a physical presence terrifyingly believable. Here's hoping that James Wan's franchise magic allows us to see more of this Gabriel in the future. At number 1, Rebecca Hall, The Night House. It seems that criminally overlooked has been a common theme for this list, but nowhere is this more obvious than with 2021's The Night House. Directed by VHS's David Bruckner and starring indie darling Rebecca Hall, The Night House tells the tale of Beth, who after losing her husband after he kills himself on a lake next to their house, tries to cope with her loss while experiencing supernatural harassment almost every night. And the old horror movie trope of, oh my god, why don't you just leave the haunted house, is cleverly tied to an allegory of grief, loss, and deep depression. Here, Hall deftly navigates the oppressive subject matter of the movie. Both intense and thoughtful, Beth is an utterly credible character for dealing with dark, complex emotions, and Hall is committed to bringing it to life. A deeply intense performance for a deeply intense movie, this is Hall's greatest performance to date. If you are feeling mentally up to it, this film is absolutely worth your time. It goes without saying, however, look out for yourself first. Sometimes horror movies are safe spaces in which we can, process our own dark thoughts, but other times it's best to be a bit cautious and look out for one's own mental state first. Because trust me, this is a wild ride. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 great performances in recent horror movies. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, where I do all of my streaming outside of work, and it'd be great to see you over there, my friends. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Hope you're treating yourself well with love and respect, my friend, because you deserve all of the best things in life, alright? Like love, happiness, and success. And I want you to make sure that you're going out there and trying to achieve those life goals. But the thing that you must always remember is that you're never alone in trying to achieve these. You've got friends, family, professionals in the support industry, because these people care about you and want you to do well. Now go out there and absolutely smash it. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.